So hello and welcome everybody to today's session. I see there are a few people coming in already. I would wait another few moments to start so that everybody is able to listen to us. But for now, hi everyone. Welcome everyone. Welcome Renee. Welcome Anastasia.
Hi.
Hello.
So, okay, I see the participant count is going up, but I think we are going to start now. So welcome to today's web session. And the topic is product discovery methods. And like the big punchline today is, are you struggling to select the right methods to build the right thing and not just the thing right? So this is actually the question. And if this is something that you are struggling with, you are right here in the session and hopefully we can help you today. So our two experts today, as I just said, Anastasia, some of you probably know her because we had a web session with her and Stefanie Grimmling 1 month ago about product discovery in general. And this is the follow-up session. And then we have Dr. René Gilster, and they are going to give you some very valuable insights today. So what is in it for you? Why is it good that you're in the session? We will have just a brief part of theory today. We will talk about the importance of product discovery and we'll guide you through the process. And we will show you, and this is the special part, we will show you real cases. Of course, they are anonymous, but they are client cases. And we will go through the methods that have helped us with product discovery. Of course, like always, we have a live Q&A. So if you have questions, please feel free to ask them in the chat. And in the end, you will get access to a cheat sheet that is that we are using during the session as well on a Miro board. So this is actually for us a new format of web session. We are not using Google Slides like always, but we are using Miro. So feel free to give us feedback in the end if this is something that works for you, if this is something that is valuable for you. This would be very great for us as well to hear. And additionally, you are more than welcome to bring your own cases with some questions. You can do this here, but probably better to do it in a follow-up meeting that you can book with Anastasia and René. And you will get the links to their calendars tomorrow in a follow-up mailing. So as always, we just have a short look at the housekeeping rules, and then we are going to start. So as I just said, we have the chat. You can use it for questions because you are muted per default, so we can't hear you. We have prepared a few poll questions. Please answer them. And of course, as always, you will receive the recording afterwards. So now we are going to switch the screens. Anastasia is going to take over, and I am going to start with the poll just before our two experts will go into detail. So Anastasia, would you just share your screen and I will start the poll, the first poll. So what we want to know today is, what is your field of expertise? Are you from a product team? Are you from a CRO team, UX, IT, or other? So there are a few people still casting their votes, so we are going to wait a few more moments, but I guess René and Anastasia, you can see the results already, right?
We can see the live results. Okay, so it's just us who can see the live results moving.
It's us right now. I'm going to share the results afterwards then when when we close the poll, which I'm going to do now. So I'm going to share the results with all of you so you can see it now. The majority of the people is from product field, from the product team. There are a few CRO people as well as UX and other. Okay, so we have another question right now and then later on. So just a second. What methods do you use the most to understand your users? Do you use user interviews, usability tests, heat maps and recordings, web analytics, data insights, market research, or A/B testing? You can choose more than one answer. And there are still a few people that haven't answered, so we're gonna wait.
A lot of dynamics going on right now in the numbers.
Okay, so, bring it on. Okay.
Okay, I think okay, there are still some people voting, so now it's on hold. I'm gonna close the poll and I'm gonna share the results. So as you can see, it's pretty equal. Of course, Web Analytics and Data Insights is the winner, so to say, but there are a few runner-ups, so very interesting. I am going to close this poll now. I'm going to hand over to Anastasia and René. And yeah, have a great session.
If there are other methods that you are using, please let us know in the chat. If it's valuable for you and it's not listed here, then just let us know, please.
Yes. And by the way, I think there was a question regarding the language of the session today. The session today is in English, and if there are more requests like that to do it in German, we might organize it. But I hope that it's okay for you, Andreas, today to get it in English.
Yeah, just maybe some background information. This is the follow-up session for the webinar that we have one month ago. And this was actually the follow-up session from our growth marketing summit that we had in June. And the talk that Anastasia had there was in English. So we decided to do it in English. But as she just said, you can always contact us. And of course, we are always open for feedback and probably might do a session in German.
Okay. Cool, thank you. Can you actually see my screen? Because I cannot see if I'm sharing. Yes, I am sharing. Okay, perfect. Great. So welcome as well from our side. We're really happy to have you here. Thank you for taking your time, and we're looking forward to spending the next hour with you. It's always a bit sad that we cannot see any feedback from you. We cannot see your facial expressions if you're confused or if you're happy about what we're saying. So please try to maybe contribute in the chat and write any thoughts that you have, any questions or comments. That would be a super cool exchange, I think. So before we jump into the actual method selection, which is the focus of our session today, we wanted to bring some theory slides, especially for those who didn't have a chance to attend the Growth Marketing Summit or didn't join our webinar a few weeks ago, so that you can just follow the whole system a bit better. Okay, so the first thing that we usually talk about is that when we work with our clients, and especially with product teams, we notice this tendency that most of the teams that we know spend most of their time in the delivery space and not in the discovery space. So what does it essentially mean? In the discovery space, we try to answer the question if we're building the right thing for the users, right? Sounds like a very, very important step to think about. And in the delivery space, we talk about how can we build the thing right, which essentially means how can we build the thing fast enough so that we have a fast time to market, or how can we build it right from the code perspective, right? Maybe there are a few more examples, but those are like the basic two things that teams are taking care of. How can they organize the backlog and, yeah, organize the delivery, in fact. But when we look at this, it might be a bit frustrating, right? Because somehow it would be more logical to first answer the question, what is the right thing to build for the users? But it comes too short in the process. And there are different reasons for that. Maybe you can share some reasons in the chat, but what we've heard so far is that teams are considering this to be a too complex process because they associate product discovery with some long-term research and analysis paralysis, and nobody has time for that because product teams are constantly under pressure. So this is a very typical reason. And secondly, there might just not be a customer-centric mindset from management side, for example. Then it's a real struggle. So we wanted to give you some triggers, some questions that help you realize that you really need to do product discovery, because obviously it's a very luxurious situation when you can do product discovery for each and every feature, for each and every project in your team. But if you have to select and decide, okay, this is really the moment when I need to do product discovery and you need to persuade your team or your management, we brought 3 questions that might be a good identification for you that you might need to start the process of product discovery. And those questions are typically, first of all, if you're already building something, you're already in the process, tickets are written, there is some progress going on, but you still have this feeling that maybe you're not building the right solution. You're just not sure. You have this, how do you say it in German, Bauchgefühl, like you have this feeling that it's not the right thing. That's a great trigger for you to start product discovery and maybe just integrate some pieces of it into the delivery step. And by the way, it's really great if you're critically thinking like that. That's already a very good sign if you're doubting your own ideas. The second example of a question that might pop up in your head is, what if we're actually solving the wrong user problem in the first place? Sometimes we don't even have a problem. Honestly, some teams are creating the solution first, and then they write the user story or user problem in the ticket just because there is a placeholder for it. I think we've all been there. It's a very bad case scenario, right? But we sometimes do this, and sometimes we just don't have the real problem that we're solving, or we are not sure if that's exactly the deep problem that is correctly identified. So if you feel like you're unsure about the user problem, that's definitely a big sign for you to start product discovery. And the third, which is also very important in the product context, of course, we want to build solutions that are viable from business perspective, and we want to make sure that they bring us return on investment, or at least we know what kind of interaction is going to happen with these elements. So if you feel like you're very unsure about what's going to happen if you roll it out, you didn't have any early indication about adoption rate, about click-through rate, about conversion rate, and so on, we really recommend you to consider doing the validation step in the discovery phase. Would be super exciting to hear maybe what thoughts you had similar to that, and share it in the chat, and we'll look at it afterwards. But now let's jump into the actual framework, because it's, I think, very important to understand the framework behind it, because this is the baseline for the whole cheat sheet that we're showing to you on the Miro board today. So what you see here, I guess most of you can recognize it. It's a double diamond, and it's a very well-known framework in the context of product discovery. And I think most of the teams have heard about it at least once. Some maybe even tried working with this. And this was exactly the case with our clients as well. So they mostly knew about this framework, and they wanted to bring it into life in cooperation with us. And in general, we definitely are fans of the mindset that this framework is creating, right? That you have the problem space where you take care of discovering the problem and really defining it in a detailed way. And then only then you jump into the solution space and take care of the development and development of the solution and the delivery, as a double diamond says. But somehow there were a few things that were a bit problematic from our perspective when we worked with this framework. And those are the very first, and I would say the most important thing that we try to address today. It's unfortunately not very clear what you can do at each step of this framework. What do you really mean with discover step? Like, what can you actually do there? Sometimes if you Google double diamond, you will see some versions of it when you see like 5 methods as examples of what you could do to do the discover step. But it's still not very helpful. I'm not sure, share your experiences. Maybe you found some better solutions, but from our experience, it was not very clear, okay, what exactly would match our case, our question, and our challenge. And this was exactly what our clients were facing as well. The second problem that we saw with the double diamond is that in reality, when we were dealing with product discovery projects for our clients, we would spend a lot more time in the problem space. I would say like 70% at least, in order to define the solution space later on. And as you can see here, it's an equal split, so we don't really fully agree with that. And the third thing that we found a bit problematic, maybe because of our conversion rate optimization background, is that the fourth step in the double diamond is delivery. And we really preach that it should be validation and not delivery first. So at first you have to get some validation in numbers or from the qualitative perspective that what you're building is really valuable for the users. And only then you push it into the delivery. So these were the 3 things that we wanted to address. And we thought, okay, how can we do this? And the solution was that we matched the conversion rate optimization framework that we have in-house. And by the way, Renee is a creator of this framework. So if you have questions for this framework, that's a great moment to talk to him directly. And we managed to match the behavior design framework steps with a double diamond and create more detailed process for product discovery. So what did we do exactly? Let's take a look at 5 steps, because you will see the steps in the cheat sheet again. That's why I really want to explain it to you. The first step is to understand the customer needs. And with that, we mean really to understand the user world, the user mindset, what is motivating them, regardless of your product, let's say. So really just their own world, their own life. In the second step, we focus on their experiences with your product, with your website, with your app, whatever your product is. So we capture customer experiences and see how they interact with your product and what are the problematic stages, what are the frictions, what is their emotional journey when they use your product, and so on. And focusing on these 2 things and splitting them into 2 different phases creates this really strong customer centricity that we think is critical when it comes to the discovery phase. The second thing that we already mentioned is that the last step in our experience should be not the delivery, but the validation. That's why we have the 5th step, validate solutions, because we truly believe that every solution is initially a hypothesis that has to be tested. In between, just so that you know the whole framework, in between we have the step where we try to link the user and business goals with the help of prioritization and some other methods that you will see in the cheat sheet today. And of course, before we create any sort of validation, we need to create a solution in the form of design and prototype or whatever. You can see some other examples of the methods that belong to this step in the cheat sheet as well. So last but not least, and I think this is the biggest value of the session today, we have created a list of all these methods right beneath each of the steps of the behavior design framework. And you can see what those methods actually mean. But if you have more questions, we can answer it today. And secondly, you can see how much time it usually, on average, can take you, so that you can plan your product discovery process accordingly. And it doesn't take you an eternity. Yeah, so now let's jump into the cases, because we really want to show you how you can select the right methods with the purpose of not just building the thing right, but with the purpose of building the right thing for your users. So how do we do it in our konversionsKRAFT world?
Anastasia, just one thing. There was someone that shared experiences in the chat. I just wanted to read this out before we start with the cases. Okay, it says, based on my experience and given the fact that he was a developer once, it's not always so cut clear how to split the effort in the double diamond. There are quite a few problems that are far more complicated to deliver than to find out what's the solution actually.
Mm-hmm. Would be interesting to know how you were dealing with this. But as mentioned, we can have a chat afterwards in a personal call. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. It's totally relatable, but I guess we cannot like go deeper into this right now because of the time, right? Okay, cool. Let's jump into the cases. So today we brought 3 cases. We'll see if we have time for all of them, depending on how far we get. As Vivian mentioned, those are real cases from our clients, but unfortunately we have to put them anonymously, but the essence should be still clear. And we'll guide you through the cheat sheet and show you what exactly we did and how we actually used it to organize the discovery process. So the first case is about a car sales platform that wanted to increase the number of show-ups to the dealer appointments. And it might sound a bit confusing to you. So just to give you a better context, so this car sales platform helps users to sell their cars to the dealership. And how the process works is that at first you need to create an appointment on the website for the dealership. And then you actually have to show up at the appointment, right? So you have to go there. And they started noticing an issue that users are creating appointments and the conversion rate for appointments is just fine, but they're having a lot of drop-offs at the show rate. So there is some commitment issue to the appointment. People are not really committing to it and they're just not attending the appointment. So it was a big question, what can we do about it? What can we change in the process to motivate the users to come there? So what we did here is in the first step, we always start with status quo. So we try together with the team, with the client team, to understand what do we have in terms of the user information, in terms of all the steps from the behavior design framework today. So specifically in this case, we had some things that were done already in the field of understanding customer needs. And those were, first of all, the first impulses from the customer service about the reasons why users didn't show up to the appointments. So this was the very first step before we even started talking about any ideas. And we got some nice hints, but it was very difficult to follow up on those because we didn't have a chance to like have deeper interviews and really understand the reasons behind it. So unfortunately, this was not enough. So we needed to dive deeper, and you will see what we did as the next step. Then also what the clients team did is that they created the benchmarking research also from the different markets in the different countries to see how the other companies are solving this. And this was exactly the first time that they saw the hint that in some markets, companies are solving it in a way that the dealer is actually coming to your place and not you go to the dealer. So that's something that stuck in the head of the whole team, and we wanted to follow up on this idea. And we almost jumped into the solution space directly. Yes, and of course there was a data analysis in the field of capturing customer experiences so that we could see, okay, how do the users today proceed through the whole customer journey? Where do we have the drop-offs? And this is exactly the moment when we realized, okay, it's not the conversion for the booked appointments, but it's rather the show-up rate that is a problematic area where we need to jump in. And then, as mentioned, as soon as we got this glimpse of the idea that a dealer could maybe come to your place as a seller, we, of course, had this thought in the team that maybe we could implement this idea and see how it works. So this was our status quo. And then what we do in the next step is that we try to write down the questions that are still open in our head, because not everything is clear, right? And we need to have it documented here on the board. So specifically in the area of understanding customer needs, it was still not really clear what is the reason for no-show to the appointment. Like we didn't have a prioritization of these reasons. We didn't understand deeply why people don't come and so on. And in the field of capturing customer experiences, we had the following question. How would users react if they actually saw an option to have a visit from the dealer? What would be their emotional reaction to this? Would they be happy about it? Would they see it as a good potential? It's an open question in our head. And last but not least, from the validation perspective, we of course had a question, can we actually earn money with this solution if dealers come to your place? I mean, it would definitely create more costs, and we didn't really know if that's going to pay off. What do we do with these questions in the next step? We actually try to make a kind of step between the selection of the methods and to see what in general we might need to address this question. So to make it more concrete, if we have a question, what is the reason for the no-show? It sounds like we need to talk to the users, right? We really need to have it to hear what they're saying about this. We need to have a chance to dive deeper and ask follow-up questions to understand the deep reasons why. So we need some qualitative input from the users in the form of the interview. We don't name the method yet, but we know that we need something in the direction of the interview. On the other hand, if we want to see the reaction of the users to the potential solution, then we need to be able to show it to them, maybe also combined with the interviews, right? That's already clear. So we need to search for methods that maybe enable us to do both so that we are more efficient and don't do different recruitings for different sessions. And last but not least, if we have a question about the viability and how much money the solution would bring us, how users would interact with this, we need to generate numbers. We cannot just assume it based on the qualitative input or on the interviews. We need to get some first indicators in the form of maybe an A/B test or a fake door test and so on. So we definitely need to show something live and get the skin in the game from the users. So this is the baseline for the selection of the methods. By the way, if something is unclear, please let us know in the chat and we'll try to answer that. Let's jump into the selection of the methods. Once we understood what we need in general, we can see what methods can address these needs the best. So for example, if we know that we want to create an interview with the users and get some qualitative insights, we look at the methods that somehow have a hint towards interviews. So for example, we can see here jobs to be done interviews, and we can see what is helping us with. It helps us understand the deep user needs and user jobs on the social, emotional, and transactional level. But honestly, it's definitely a great information to have, but it's a bit too broad for our specific question, right? We would maybe waste a bit of time if we do that, because we have very clear questions that we have to answer, and jobs to be done interviews would bring us more ideas for new solutions, but it's not really addressing our concerns. So we cannot take that. The other thing that we considered is interviews with customer-facing teams, and that's exactly what the client team already tried, but it was, yeah, maybe in a bit less structured way. So that didn't really allow us to have deep explanations for the things that we've heard, you know, because if it's not an official interview with a client on the phone, you don't really take a lot of time to get deeper into the problem. So it's usually just like 1 or 2 questions that customer service takes into their daily routines, and it's not always giving us the full picture. So that was unfortunately not enough. So we tried to search further, and what we found specifically interesting for this case is the user lab. In our internal konversionsKRAFT world, we call it motivation lab, because what we do here is that we combine the user interview that helps us understand the user needs, the user mindset, but also we usually show the product and get the idea about the emotional journey throughout the whole usage of the product. So this sounded like a perfect combination for us to get the qualitative interview insights. That's exactly what we needed, right? And at the same time, get the first idea of how would people react and what kind of comments would they give if they saw the solution that the dealer is coming to your place. So this was the decision for us. We took the user lab and organized it. And also an important comment to that, we tried to integrate the 5 whys method into our interview script so that we really get to the deep problem why users don't show up to the dealer appointments. And you will see the reason later. So then, to answer the question, how can we generate the numbers or help calculate the business case in the future, we reviewed all the testing possibilities that we listed here in the cheat sheet, and we went through them. So if we review the A/B test, just to show you the thinking process, this could be an option to do an A/B test for sure, but our focus was not really to have an idea if the option with the dealer coming to your place is performing better than the current control version. It was more about the general acceptance of this feature. So A/B test was not that valuable for us, and we didn't want to start with it. But technically, this could work. The panel test is a sort of alternative to A/B test where we don't show the test on the website, but instead we have a sort of survey, a panel survey where we can show the versions of the variants of the test to the users and also get some qualitative input. If you're more interested in understanding how this works, maybe let's have a follow-up session because otherwise it's too much to tell. But in fact, it's an alternative to an A/B test. So you do the same principle, but you do it in the form of a survey. It was not really working for us here because we really needed to get the skin in the game. We really needed to see if the users are in the live journey and if they're reacting to this feature. So panel test is not a good idea for us here. MVP is simply too big. I mean, honestly, we're talking about really just like a little feature here from a technical perspective. So building an MVP is maybe a bit too much, and it's not what we needed in this case. Same goes for the feature flag. And the fake door test was exactly the right thing for us because this would help us generate the first numbers on the adoption rate with a very little time invested. So what does it mean? We created this option on the live journey that users could see an option that that the dealer is coming to their place, and we could actually measure how many people would select that. So would really show us a buy-in for this option without knowing from the beginning that it doesn't exist yet. In the next step, we would show them the pop-up that says that this feature is still in the development phase, but thanks a lot for your interest. But we could get the first real indicators if users would go for it. So this is super valuable. And what is important to mention, I know that maybe it's a lot of input, but we want to show you the whole picture. What we showed in the user lab here was exactly this test, this fake door test. So we had these two things running in parallel. On the one hand, we had the fake door tests running on live, and we could collect the numbers and see what is happening there. What is the adoption rate? How many people are interested? And on the other hand, we talked to, I think, 10 users and could show them this exact test and also hear why they are selecting or not selecting this option, which is an amazing combination, I have to say, because you have the whole picture in front of you. Why things are happening this way, and also what is happening in numbers. So in the end, it takes you like around, I would say, 1 month to have all of these methods implemented, if your team is working on this with a full focus. And in 1 month, you're much smarter in terms of the solution. So what was the outcome, you might be wondering? We finally understood what is the deep problem why users are not really coming to the appointments. And it's not really about the comfort. It's not about I'm too lazy and I don't go to the dealer because of that, which was the original baseline for the idea of the dealers coming to your place. But instead, it was a lot more about the insecurity and mistrust towards dealers on a personal level. People had some fears interacting with the dealers. They sometimes were afraid that they would just not get the best deal and that the dealer would always have a deal that is better for them, and they were not prepared for these negotiations and stuff like that. So it was more about missing trust than anything else, like a comfort. So that's why they didn't really show much interest to the option in the fake door test. And we could also understand why it was not that interesting for them. So the next step that we decided to do as a team is to create an optimization plan for actually communicating the security and trust towards the dealer network. And we would like to test these things in the form of NAB test in this case, right? Because let's say we create a variation where we really explicitly communicate why you can trust this network of dealers. And we would test this against the control and see if that's performing better. So this was the first case that shows you the mental scenario of how we approach this kind of cases and how we select the methods. And we would jump into the second case right now, but maybe there are some questions or comments that we want to address now.
There are no questions right now. Yeah, I think we can go ahead.
Okay. Then that's my turn for the second case. Thank you, Anastasia. Okay, case 2. It's about a sports car manufacturer, and more precisely, it's about the electric car journey that they introduced. It was like 2 years ago, quite different situation from today. I think a lot have changed since then. So just keep it in mind that it was like 2 years ago when we did this project, or when we started it actually. And so the problem that they faced was that they had all these nice pages that they introduced for their new electric cars. But they noticed that they have a really high bounce rate, a low conversion rate, and not many sales or sellings for their online platform, and they wanted to change that. So they approached us and wanted to increase their sales. And we started by asking, what do you know about your customers, about their goals? And actually, there wasn't really much. So in the beginning, before we really started the project, we did a small heuristic expert evaluation of their pages. And what we could see is that their website was actually optimized for all the customers who are really solution aware or product aware. So they already know that they want to buy an electric car. They probably even know that they want an electric car from this manufacturer. But it wasn't really like optimized for people who are new to electric cars, who are in a stage where they don't even know if an electric car is right for them. So all the arguments that they needed were missing from this page. And also, we also noticed when we've had a first look at the site that there's really too much focus on what we call your security aspects of using an e-car. So there's the saying, and there are many Germans here, It's called the German Reichweitenangst. So the Germans especially have this, this fear that they won't reach their destination with an electric car. It's really pronounced in Germany. And also this manufacturer thought it's a good idea to put it right on the landing page and discuss the ranges of their cars in detail. And, we got the feeling it might increase some doubts and fear, some things that people might not even, were thinking about when they came to the site. But then, they have all these questions, and then like, oh well, maybe I should stick to my old car. Maybe it's better for me. So that might be an explanation for the high bounce rates and the low conversion rate. And so yeah, so what were the open questions? So as I said, we really needed to find out what is motivating the users to try an e-car or to buy an e-car, and to find out what the right emotional triggers are. We're clueless as far as or as well as the manufacturer. And what we also wanted to answer is the question, what should be the new content structure of the pages, like the landing page, the category pages, the detail pages, the configurator, and so on. Because it was obvious that the structure that we were presented with were not the right one. And in the end, of course, we wanted to know, as in the case before, can we earn some money with it? Can we earn more money when we change the structure of the pages and address the emotional needs of the customers? So again, similar to the case that were presented before, we were sure we need some qualitative input from the user. We needed to understand the emotional goals of the user when they were dealing with electric cars, especially for the potential customers who are not really, solution aware, but, at the stage where they are thinking about it. And so we thought that we needed to understand really their thought process. So right from the start, when did you first think of buying an electric car? And start from this point on and get an idea what we needed to address. So then we had a look at our cheat sheet here, and there are different methods that come to mind, and I mean you come to mind, and well, you already see the white circle here. But let me just go over one or two other methods that we were thinking about. You heard about in the first case about user labs that we used in the first case. But this method was really not fitting here because we already established that the pages that we saw were not really suited for potential customers. So we feared that we will just repeat what we already established in the heuristic analysis. So that wouldn't give us really much insight and the emotional triggers or needs that we were aiming for. We could also use on-page surveys, but again, it's almost a similar problem. Market research, on the other hand, might be a good thing. Takes usually 2 to 3 weeks if you're planning ahead, and that might be suited. But then again, it's not really suited to go deeper into the questions or to ask the customer again. He just usually have to mark some crosses, and then that's it. It wasn't really what we were after. So we decided for what's called jobs redone. We did some jobs redone interviews, and maybe I'm not sure if you're all familiar with the term jobs redone or what it is. So I will just go over some or give you a really small introduction into what it is. So the idea of the jobs redone framework is that we don't just buy products or services, we hire them in order to achieve our goals. So there's this famous example of an American fast food restaurant, McDonald's, And so they had the problem that they wanted to sell more milkshakes. So they were not happy with their sales. So they hired these guys, these market researchers, and they did what they did. They asked them questions. Do you want more chocolate in it? Do you want more cream in it? Do you want it to be cheaper? And the customer said, well, of course, yeah, we want all that. Do that. So they introduced these new features, and nothing happened. Okay, so everyone was disappointed, the market researchers, the company. So they changed the approach, and they asked the people or the customers, what do you want to achieve with a milkshake? And they were like, what is that? What kind of question is that? What do I want to achieve? And then they were thinking about it, and then they were like, okay, yeah, I understand. What I want to, I am on my way to work. I'm commuting with my car. It took me like 1 hour or 1.5 hours, and it's so boring. I need to be entertained on this commute to my work. So this is a whole new angle to the whole situation, right? So now it's more like the customers are telling us they want to achieve something. They don't want to get bored. And that's the idea of a job or the jobs to be done. It's like, help me make my boring car ride entertaining. Like other jobs might be something like, help me to escape reality for a week. Just think of the Disney parks, with walls 5 meters high. It's pure genius. You enter the park, the gates close behind you, and you are in a dream world. It's perfect. It nails the job perfectly, and that's one of the reasons why Disney parks and Disney is so successful. Or just think about another job. Help me to listen to music on the go. It's an old job, but the technology changes. Think about the Sony Walkman from the 80s. Then we had the iPod. Then we had MP3 players, the iPhone, and now we have all the streaming services. So the technology changes, but the job remains the same. And it's a powerful job and makes a lot of money if you nail it, as Spotify and other companies show us today. So that's a small introduction to what is jobs we done, and we decided to go for this kind of approach with this car manufacturer, and we wanted to know what are the jobs for electric cars for the customers, and just to give you 1 or 2 examples of the jobs. So one job is certainly this. I would like to experience fun, or more precisely, to feel the rush of acceleration. That was really powerful in all the interviews. We heard it from all the people that we interviewed. Also, something like, I want to feel like up to date, like to be modern, to be a modern guy in this world, or even something like, I want to impress other people. Again, this was like 2 years ago when we started this project. It's now a bit changed maybe, but then it was quite powerful. And we also, or one thing became really clear in these interviews, and that was really, really strong for us. That was, all of them told us when they did the test drive, they bought the car on an emotional level already. So although they didn't, the contract wasn't sealed, they were already know after the test drive they want to buy a car. So that was a really strong emotion that they showed, and that we found out in the interview. So we used this knowledge and of course other insights to come up with a new concept for the content pages. And that was the moment when we, switched within the framework and answered the question that we also introduced. So like the questions, we would like to know what content structure would motivate the users to buy an electric car. So in order to answer that, we had, again, different methods to choose from. We could do prototype, we could do concept and design, We could do a design sprint. You probably know about this. We have many people from product here in the call. We can do focus groups. When we go to the validation side, we can do the A/B testing, panel testing, and so on. In the end, we decided for this combination of concept design with panel testing. Why? Because we felt that from the interviews, we got a strong sense of what were the different steps that people went through when they were, thinking about electric cars. So we had a good understanding of what would be or what would be beneficial content for each page. So we did concepts for that. And then we used the panel test because it allowed us to use a large sample of potential customers, and they all were in different stages of their journey. So we could establish if the journey that we created in comparison to the old one meets the expectations of these potential customers. And yeah, what can I say? The new design was much superior to the old one. So what we did basically is we first introduced a lot of fueled, so to speak. So all the things that are happy thoughts for them, like do some nice pictures, videos and stuff, and focus on the emotional good things that are related to e-cars, like the feel the rush of acceleration and stuff. Then we enforced the test drive right from the start. So to make them, or to what I said before, that they want to buy the car on an emotional level already. Then we had, and then only on a third or fourth step, we introduced the range problematic of electric cars, the German Reichweitenangst. And then we went on to product details and stuff. Yeah, so turned out sorry, I was on the wrong page. It turned out that the new design was quite superior to the old one, and for us the outcome was really like it was really necessary to first fundamentally understand the user needs before we could introduce a new concept for these sites. And these interviews that we did, I think it were like 10 people in total that we interviewed, were so valuable for us to create this new content that is now in the A/B testing phase. Again, it's a long time from the start to the A/B testing right now, but it has some reasons why we can do the A/B testing right now. It has to do with a new testing tool that they introduced, some code freezes and stuff. I think you can relate to this. But we are right now in the stage where we can actually do the A/B testing and and find out if the numbers are also right and if we can increase really the sales for this car manufacturer. Yeah, so that's the case two. I don't know what the time. Oh, the time is already 10 minutes to go.
I think.
Sorry, that took a bit longer than anticipated.
I think probably checking the time, we should leave it with those two cases. We actually have a third one, but we want to make some room for questions as well, which is very important as well, because there were a few questions in the chat. Okay. If this would be okay for the both of you, I would go ahead with the Q&A session now.
Sure.
Yes, and just to make sure, I mean, for those who maybe, just not to frustrate you, okay, guys, the third case will be in the cheat sheet, and it is there, you can find it. And actually, it's the case that we already showed in the in our webinar and also the Growth Marketing Summit. So it's, for most of you, I guess, not very new, but it's just put into the structure of the cheat sheet. So I hope that's okay, and you're not missing out on anything.
And as we just said, if you have questions about the third case, you can always feel free to get in touch with us. And I think, Anastasia, René, you will be very happy to help. So the questions, this is one question probably for you, René. How do you document or summarize qualitative interview insights from X people? What is the best way to do that?
Oh, yeah, that's a nice question. Okay. I can tell you, AI is your friend right now. So when we started Jobs to be done interviews a few years ago, you can imagine, so for one participant, we have like hundreds of statements for each interview. So when we have 10, you can imagine we have thousands of statements. So that was really painful to analyze these manually, but we did this, of course. But right now there are better methods, of course. I mean, we have all the statements organized. We can nowadays, you can record these things. You can use AI to organize and structure it. So what we do actually is we train the AI to organize and structure it in a way that that we think it's feasible to do. And that saves a lot of time for us and gives us, in the end, quite nice answers. Of course, it's only 80% right. We have to, check for it. We have to go over these results with an expert view, so to speak. But it saves, so much time nowadays. Yeah.
What a time to be alive.
What a time to be alive, right?
Doing this job.
What did we do before ChatGPT?
Yeah.
So I have no idea.
So there is another question.
I would have also a few tips maybe. The first one is, in general, especially if you're struggling with persuading your management to do product discovery, and if you got a chance to do an interview or whatever, documenting some user insights, try to involve those stakeholders. I mean, just invite them to the interview and maybe even ask them to write down the notes together with you. This is a great exercise to bond on the same user problem and just really make them hear what the users are saying, and it's not coming from you, but from the user. So it's, yeah, not exactly about where you document, but I think it can make a change in terms of, mindset when it comes to product discovery. And maybe one more thing, I think when you do the qualitative, create collection of qualitative or quantitative insights, sometimes it's more specific cases, just like you saw here, right? It was a very specific challenge that we had to solve. But there are also things that you have to have documented in a stable way, in a central way, right? For example, jobs to be done of the users that you have. Ideally, most of the teams have to have access to it. Let's say maybe you have one Miro board that shows all of these jobs to be done and their pains and gains. We call them motivators, demotivators, but it's a very similar concept. So those kind of things you can keep central, and all the things that you're doing in terms of user interaction, you just feed everything into that one document so that it's growing and your insights base is growing as well. Yeah. Mm-hmm. We hope that this helps and this is addressing your question.
Thank you. Another question, but this one is for Anastasia. How do you organize the questions? I see quite a few teams doing discovery and soul or answer searching without calling it discovery. What are the things, not necessarily tools, that you use to make the discovery phase more obvious?
I think maybe it's a bit similar to, first of all, very interesting question. I had to really think about it a bit. I think it's just like when you have maybe weird comparison, but when you have some psychological problems, then first step is to accept that you have a problem and to really realize it and put it into words. So I would say this is a similar thing here. What we try to do with our clients is to get a buy-in that they realize that we have a lot of things to clarify before we jump into the solution. And how we do it is by having a dialogue with them in a similar way how we showed it to you with the cheat sheet, that we, for example, say, okay, let's look at what you already have collected as data or insights for this specific question that you have, for this specific idea that you have, and just ask them guiding questions like, okay, did you do something in the direction of understanding customer needs? Maybe you ran some interviews, can you tell us about it? And we just fill in all the gaps in the cheat sheet, right? This is the one thing. Second thing, it's not really part of this presentation, but I can still give you it as a tip. Sometimes it helps to bring in the so-called four risks framework from Marty Kagan, because it helps stakeholders realize, okay, what are the things that we still find risky about our idea? they can very easily talk about risks. And then you can say, okay, we can see that we have a value risk. For example, we're not sure if this solution is really solving the user problem, or we have viability risk because stakeholders are not sure if it's going to pay off from the business perspective. And it helps you just have a common ground and say, okay, we have a lot of risks here that are having no answer and we don't know how to manage them. So we need to do product discovery. So we try to get this buy-in that they really say, okay, yes, we need to take the step back to take a step forward in the future. So I would say this is the first thing. Yeah, and practically to answer your question, we just go through the 5 steps of behavior design framework and see what they already have and see what questions they still have in their head that have to be answered to make sure that our hypothesis is validated. Does it help you? Is that what you wanted to understand, or did I go into the other direction?
So yeah.
Just to add, maybe that wasn't part of this presentation here, but there will be some kind of follow-up to this, where we talk about the outputs for each step in this framework. And so the beauty of this is that no matter what's the input for each step, there's standardized output. So it's almost like a software function where you have input arguments and you have all your computations, and then you have your return values. And that's the beauty of it, because whatever you do, whatever we do, whatever methods you can combine in each step, there will be a standardized input and output for each step, and this helps you to organize your knowledge. So the claim that we have here is that no wisdom is lost, and it's easily accessible for everyone. But that's for another seminar. Stay tuned.
Following up on this question, there was a bit more that just came in. I'm gonna just ask it to you, but maybe if we should move this to a one-on-one meeting, we can do this as well. So there was like the person that asked this question was aiming a bit more in the direction of the teams. Most teams don't call it discovery phase, but he seldomly sees a team that is acting blind. Management acting blind or based on personal biases is a completely different story here.
Okay, I think it would be definitely a great idea to connect and maybe have a call on this so that we can hear more details, because I'm not sure what is the problem you're trying to address. If you say that the team was already doing product discovery, but they don't officially call it, I mean, the idea of the whole session right now is to actually like make some steps into the direction of product discovery. So if the teams are doing that already, that's great. I'm a bit confused about why you want to explicitly call it a discovery phase. Maybe you could, if you can put it into one sentence, that would be great. If not, we would be super happy to connect and really understand it better and have an exchange on that.
Okay, so maybe there will be another message in the chat about this, but one more thing that was sent in the Q&A feature, but it was more feedback. Thanks to Anastasia and René. It was well guided through, and it brought some good clarifications for that person. So as of now, we don't have any more open questions. So as we said several times, please get in touch with Anastasia and René. They are very happy to help you and to talk about a few things and go into more depth in a separate exchange. So I think this would probably be a good idea. So there was just one sentence coming in the chat. It was one sentence, as you said, Anastasia. So basically being mindful about what a team is doing to surface the underlying need to understand customers, but being able to act on it consciously.
Johannes, I would suggest that we just have a little call, like maybe a coffee call, 15 minutes, half an hour. You'll get the link to the calendar, so feel free to just book the time and let's talk about it more, because I think it's very interesting, like from what perspective you're asking these questions, it's very new to us. So we would also learn from that. Yeah, let's talk about it in a separate meeting. And by the way, you will get it also in the email, but if you feel like you're still struggling to use this cheat sheet and you would like to use that, and you would like to discuss your personal case, but obviously not in the whole webinar with everyone, you can create also an appointment with us and just have a free session for like half an hour where we would go through some post-its together and help you just get into the flow. So feel free to approach us. You will get the links in the email.
Also, let us know if you experience something when you think that it's not helpful, when you think there should be something changed, or you don't know how to use it. Let us know.
Yeah, because it's the first version of it, and I mean, we know how to work with this, and it's working for us. But still, it's maybe not the perfect state of art, and we're happy to develop on it.
Okay, so I think we have exceeded our time by 1 minute now. So I think it's a good moment to close the session now. Thank you very much to you, Anastasia and René. It was very, very helpful, insightful, and yeah, as we said, get in touch with the both of them. They are very happy to help you, and you will get the recording, of course, and access to this Miro board as well. So if you have any questions, you can just contact us or the both of them. And I wish you a great day and see you all soon, hopefully. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.